Well, what do you know? What do you know? Tell y'all what I know. Sitting here on a Friday with no weekend load, and I figured, why not knock out a video? So this last week was pretty interesting, to say the least. It's one of them weeks where it just felt like it just drug out forever and just couldn't get it over with. But anyway, we'll just kind of run through the numbers, and while I'm going through the numbers, we'll kind of talk about what all happened as we go through them. So last place I left off was Liberal, Kansas. I got unloaded in Liberal, Kansas, and then I bounced over to Andover, Kansas. Andover, I think is how they, something like that. Andover, Kansas. It's like the east side of Wichita. Grabbed a load that weighed 40,000 pounds that was going down to Waco, Texas. Load paid a gross amount of $1,650. To the truck, paid $1,162.87. Now that was a total miles of 672 miles with the deadhead from Liberal, Kansas over to there. I got 8.5 miles to the gallon, and that came out to $1.73 a mile. Now while I was sitting and waiting to get unloaded, I was backed into a dock getting unloaded. My next load messaged me and canceled on me. So that kind of hurt a little bit. That kind of put me in a position where I couldn't get to my weekend load. So immediately I called that agent. Well, actually, immediately I jumped on the load board trying to see if I couldn't connect the dots. Then I called the agent to see if she couldn't help me connect the dots. I kind of let her know what was going on. She didn't have anything. She kind of bounced me around to a couple other people in her office to see if they had something that could help connect the dots. And when it was all said and done, I wasn't able to connect those dots, so I ended up having to cancel my weekend load also. So now I'm stuck in Waco, Texas, looking at last minute loads. So therefore I wasn't able to reload that day. I did find a load the following day. So from Waco, Texas, I dropped down to Belleville, Texas. Grabbed a load that weighed 44,500 pounds. That was going to Frisco, Texas. That load paid $1,100 gross pay. To the truck was $768.13. That was a total of 406 miles altogether. And that load, being as heavy as it was, and I was pretty much running straight into the wind on it, 6.7 miles to the gallon. So that's a rate of $1.89 per mile on that load. Now from Frisco, I found a load out of Marshall, Texas, that was going to Parker, Colorado. Now, that load paid $4,444 even. That's gross pay on it. And it weighed 25,000 pounds. Now, to the truck was $3,069.55. Now, on this load, my truck decided to give me issues. I picked that load up. I went to the house, did a 34-hour reset, left out Sunday morning. I had an 8 a.m. Monday morning appointment time. I ran from my house all the way to the Flying J in Lyman, Colorado. Parked up there, which put me about 85 miles from the job site. My truck has the Park Smart or the Opti Idle on it, or whatever you want to call it. And at about 11 o'clock at night, while I was sleeping, which every time my truck starts, it'll start and charge the batteries back up. It'll set for about 6 to 8 hours without idling, and then it'll idle for a little bit to charge the batteries back up. Well, at about 11 o'clock local time, when the truck started, and each time it starts, I kind of come to a little bit, and then usually I'll go right back to sleep. Well, it started up this time, and it idled for about half a minute to a minute, and then it started idling real rough. And then it died on me. And so immediately, my initial thoughts was, it just gelled up. I had looked, you know, I always keep an eye on the weather and the temperatures and this and that. I had just got fuel in Kansas, and I'm pretty sure that Kansas, you know, northern part of Kansas treats their fuel. I'm not 100% positive, but I had stuck a little bit of anti-gel in it previous to that. So I wasn't too worried about, you know, initially I wasn't too worried about it gelling up. But when it died, my initial thoughts was it gelled up. So I jumped on the weather app and looked, and it showed it was like 29 degrees with a wind chill of 18. So I thought, well, you know, I guess it could have gelled up. So immediately I jumped up, got dressed. I tried to start the truck again, and it just turned over and turned over and turned over, wouldn't do nothing. And I noticed that the truck showed that it was 34 degrees where I was sitting at. So when you get them in the midst of all the trucks and stuff, and you got trucks around you that are idling, a lot of times you got a windbreak, and the other trucks will kind of help keep the area warm around you. So I said 34 degrees, that's not cold enough to gel. But still in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm in a higher altitude. I mean, it's possible. I guess it might have. So immediately I jump out of the truck. I throw a thing of anti-gel in both tanks, and I throw a thing of diesel 911 in each tank. Now, when I popped the hood and went to put anti-gel and diesel 911 in the fuel separator bowl, so that way I could try to reprime and get some of that stuff into the fuel system. Here, we'll hop out right fast, and I'll kind of show you what I found. So, bear with me just a second. We got to get unhooked here. Hopefully y'all can see. Here, we're going to pop the hood right fast. Maybe if I can do it one-handed. There we go. So like I was saying, when I first popped the hood and I came up here to add some anti-gel and diesel 911 to the fuel separator bowl, when I first started to turn on this to break it loose, the whole thing spun. This was so loose that it had sucked air into the fuel system. There was no fuel in this at all. So I hand tightened this the best that I could, then dumped some fuel or some anti-gel and some diesel 911 in there, and then I started priming on the system. So I primed on it as much as I could, and I kept priming on it, and wouldn't, you know, the truck was just turning over and wouldn't do nothing. Oh, I'm trying to get this thing hooked back up here. Let's climb back up in here right fast and get situated again. Oh. All right, hopefully y'all can still see me. So, like I said, fuel water separator bowl was empty. So I primed on it, kept trying to turn it over. Wasn't getting nowhere with it. So right across the street was a TA, or right across the highway there was a TA over there. And so I called them. And they informed me that their service guy went home at midnight. And that they would try to get him over there if they could. A little later on, I called them back. They said, yeah, he's going to make it. He'll be there about 15, 20 minutes. He's going to come to you before he goes home. I said, all right. They didn't have another service guy till 8 o'clock in the morning. So if he didn't make it by midnight, that meant that I wasn't going to get any help till morning. So a little later on, I call them back. And this is just a few minutes before midnight. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's not going to make it. He wasn't able to get finished up on what he's working on. So it'll be first thing in the morning before we can get somebody over there. So I was all right, it is what it is, you know. I had an 8 a.m. appointment time. Now I need to, I contact the agency. They had an after hours. Fortunately, they had 2 trucks going to the same job site. I had an 8 a.m. appointment. The other truck had a midnight appointment. Well, in the morning, the agency told me that the other driver was close enough that they went ahead and routed him to the job site, which then put me on the noon appointment. So that gave me a little bit of time to get my truck up and running so I could make it. When TA said that they wouldn't come till morning, I went across the street to the La Quinta Inn and got me a room. Now my bunk heater was still running, and it probably would have kept me warm, but my concern is at this point my battery's pretty low, and I didn't know how long everything would continue to run inside the truck. So I went ahead and made the decision to go across the street and get me a room. And I shut the batteries off on the truck, so that way nothing inside the truck would continue to run the batteries down. In the morning, the TA, communicated with the agency again, and like I said, they was able to get the other driver there. TA didn't show up till like 9:30 in the morning. They're right across the highway. Didn't make it till 9:30 in the morning. I was supposed to be first on the list, and they said that I still was first on the list. So I guess 8 a.m. means 9:30 for them. But it is what it is. In the meantime, while I was waiting on the service guy, I was still continuing to try to prime the system. I was pumping on it, and I tried to turn the truck over, and I was pumping on it. I wasn't getting nowhere with it. Now, when the service guy pulls up, he wasn't there maybe 10 minutes, and he had the truck started. So I was very fortunate in that fact. He went ahead and tightened the fuel water separator bowl down, and fired up the air compressor and put air pressure to the fuel system. So we was able to get the truck started fairly quick. So I was able to make my noon appointment and deliver the load. The fortunate side of this was the truck didn't leave me stranded on the side of the road. It actually made it to the truck stop. So I was fortunate in that fact. Kind of some blessings in disguise here. There was a TA right across the highway. That was the other one. And then on top of that, right across the street from the Flying J, there was a La Quinta Inn within walking distance. So I was able to go get me a room, stay warm. So it kind of worked out in a sense. It still sucked that it happened, but like I said, the fortunate side of it, it couldn't have happened at a better time. I was very fortunate that it didn't leave me stranded on the side of the highway, because that wouldn't have been a good thing. So anyway, enough rambling about it, but that's kind of how my week went. Had a load cancel on me, had the truck somewhat leave me stranded for a little bit, but we was able to overcome it and get back to running. So, load from Marshall, Texas to Parker, Colorado. Like I said, paid $4,444 even. Gross pay to the truck, $3,069.55, weighed 25,000 pounds. Total mileage on this load with the deadhead was 1,185 miles. I got 8.3 miles to the gallon, and that's a rate of $2.59 a mile. Now, total miles for the week was 2,264 miles. I got 8 miles to the gallon. Truck made $5,000.55, and that's a rate of $2.20 a mile to the truck. So, when it's all said and done, it wasn't a bad week. Rates are kind of coming, like I say they're kind of, rates are coming down. It's kind of forcing me to run into areas that I don't normally run into this time of year. Not real thrilled about that. And right now, I'm sitting on a Friday without a weekend load. And I'm waiting for my wife to come pick me up. So, I wasn't able to land something for this weekend. I had to come home for a few days, but we'll talk about that on next week. Actually, I'm not gonna. I'll just kind of leave it at that. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Like always, I appreciate y'all for watching. Stay safe, stay warm. There's another cold front coming across our nation. It's got a lot of rain and a lot of snow with it. So stay safe. And like always, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and shiny side up, rubber side down. Or actually, shiny side up, rubber side down. Catch y'all on the next one.